right, so let's begin then with our big story today. Former President Jacob Zuma's private prosecution of Advocate Billy Downer and journalist Karyn Maughan has been postponed to February next year. Now, Downer's application to set aside the case against him and Maughan is set to be heard on the 8th and the 9th of December. Now, Maughan's application for an urgent interdict could not be heard this morning, as the presiding judge had a conflict of interest. Now, Zuma accuses Downer and Maughan of violating the National Prosecuting Act. In October last year, Zuma opened a criminal complaint at the Pietermaritzburg police station against Downer for allegedly leaking his confidential medical records to Maughan. All right, so let's stay with this particular story and speak to Mzwanele Manyi, who's the Jacob Zuma Foundation spokesperson. Mr. Manyi, I hope you can hear me at this hour. We're struggling with your line a little bit earlier on. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's talk about first your view on the proceedings today.
Yeah, no, look, good afternoon, your viewers. No, indeed, this morning started in a very funny way. It's not very clear what exactly was Karyn and them trying to do.
Mr. Manyi, I'm going to ask the team. Mr. Manyi, my apologies to have to cut you there. I'm going to ask the team to try and re-establish a better line with you so we are able to hear you clearly, because right now the signal is dropping somewhat. And if we can then be able to re-establish, that connection then to Mr. Mzwanele Manyi, of course, who's the spokesperson for the Jacob Zuma Foundation. You'd remember even today we saw those proceedings, but also interestingly, seeing the former president addressing the crowd outside of court this morning, of course, in a jovial mood, talking about how today is a different day. He said that he was coming to court as usually as the accused, but today he's the one that has launched criminal proceedings, of course, talking about the private prosecution matter and saying that it's kind of a different scenery. And of course, much to the cheer of the supporters that had gathered there. And he spoke about how for him this is a watershed moment, and saying that they do believe that they have a watertight case against Advocate Billy Downer and journalist Karyn Maughan. And of course, also thanking the leadership of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal who were in attendance. We also saw the chairperson of the ANC in the province as well, also in attendance there. And, really the former president talking about how for him this particular matter is in fact, one that is quite significant. So I'm not sure if we do have Mr. Mzwanele back on the line, as of course that line was not the greatest of lines as he is traveling back, and you can only imagine what the network is like. And some of the interesting things that the former president also said earlier on this morning, if you've missed that address, I mean, he was talking about, thanking his supporters, which was quite interesting. I mean, he thanked his supporters for the fact that they have been with him throughout his, the 15-month sentence, as he, spoke about it. But also then he said that, ngiyabonga kakhulu, those of you who have been with me throughout the journey. And then he spoke about, what happened in July last year, saying that he was notified about this while he was in prison. So quite a lot coming out from that address. And I do understand that we've got Mr. Mzwanele Manyi back on the line. Mr. Manyi, I hope it's a better line to you this time. Let's start with your view on the proceedings today.
Yeah, good afternoon, and your viewers. No, I think this morning started very bad. The case was the criminal case against the two accused, Downer and Karyn Maughan. It was set for today, and somehow they tried to do something urgent on another court on the same day. And it turned out that that judge could not do this thing because he was saying he was conflicted and all that. But the bottom line is that the case they tried in the morning did not succeed, and then the one that was meant to be actually being dealt with on today was the one that was dealt with. So, but then the proceedings of the criminal case, I think they just really they went very well. It's clear that where we all sit with everything. So indeed, the case is proceeding, and it had to be postponed. Because also this judge, it was a very funny thing here, to be just blatantly honest with you. because we had a judge that was sitting there that wanted to do half the story. The half part of the story was that this judge was only willing to entertain the issue of the cost that Billy Downer was demanding and how that was dealt with, that we didn't give him $1 million and something else was offered, and that all parties were happy at the end with what was offered. But in terms of getting into the case, somehow the judge said, no, actually, I don't think I'm assigned to this case, and all of that. And then he had to go out and consult, I think, is the judge president. And then later came back to finalize matters. And the finality was really the postponement, or rather, the postponement of the case to February next year. That's really what happened there. But interestingly, the closing words, though, were quite very serious, because this judge was very clear when he closed. He closed, and when he was talking to the accused, Karyn Maughan and Billy Downer, he was very clear that 2nd of February next year, 9:30, and if you are not here, warrants of arrest will be issued. So I thought that if anybody thought this was still just some Mickey Mouse game, then they put something coming.
It sounds, though, that you're not happy with the delays thus far?
I think it was all the Stalingrad kind of tactics of the accused people. It was really just uncalled for. Really, I mean, whatever they wanted to argue should have been argued in that same criminal case court. I mean, if you say I can't, just like we are doing, for instance, President Zuma is arguing exactly the same thing, but we didn't go to a motion court. I think they were Karyn was trying to avoid her day in court, basically, by trying to bring up the Stalingrad tactic. So, but the Stalingrad just did not work.
We saw the former president, going outside, of course, addressing some of those who were gathered there outside court. He was excited and saying that he is relieved that this day has finally come, saying that, it's interesting that he's switched positions now. He's not the accused. In fact, he's the one that brought this matter. Looking at the fact that there are now cases, to have this matter struck off the roll, how hopeful is he that this case is watertight?
Let us struck off the roll.
I'm saying that given the fact that there are now these applications on the sidelines that you also alluded to a little earlier on, to have this matter struck off, how confident is he in the light of this that he's got a watertight case?
Oh no, this case, like I keep saying to people, this is an open and shut case. The matter, this case is so clear, Bongiwe. Just to refresh your memory, the violation of the law, happened on a holiday, 9th of August 2021. So there is no argument that when Karyn Maughan got hold of the information, it was a public holiday. So, I mean, that is the clearest thing to show that there was some irregularity, there was some criminality here. This whole thing of all the media people saying media freedom and all of this, and court documents are public, those are all misleading narratives, because we are not talking about court documents here. Court documents become court documents once they are filed. Now, once they are still with NPA, those are NPA documents, and that's what the law talks to. The law does not talk to court documents. It talks to the NPA documents. That law, Section 41, Subsection 6 of NPA Act, is dealing purely with NPA documents. So there's no case on court documents. The case is on NPA documents. So there's absolutely no way of running away from this. And we've got tweets, we've got articles written on the day before the court. And even SABC, if you want, I can even send them to you. You can see this. So the evidence is overwhelming that the law was broken.
Mr. Manyi, I'm going to take you outside now, outside of court, where the former president was speaking to his supporters. Part of what he spoke about is the July unrest, thanking his supporters, saying that he was notified that the country was burning while he was, in prison, and that people were really unhappy with the court's decision. Listening to what he said, though, I mean, at some point even using words like, it sounded like he was condoning what happened in July.
No. I think you should be the last person to have that kind of interpretation, being an African. When last did you attend a funeral? Those are the normal closing words for people that giving thanks. I'm sure Bonge, you know this. You must confirm it right here on air.
But I want to understand from you, what do you think he meant by that? Because he was talking about how unhappy everyone was and all of that, and says that Ningbonisile Uguti, Nyangesega, but at the same time talking about the cases. So I'm trying to get a sense from you that was he condoning, because to some it may sound like he was.
Well, you see, people always see what they want to see. All President Zuma was doing there was really just thanking people and just saying, this generosity, this love that you've shown me, please show it to other people. There's absolutely no way President Zuma would have said the looting and the burning, do it again. No. We are talking about the love and the support. I mean, some of those days when we used to come to court, it was cold days, but the people were there. This is talking about. The support that he got was just unbelievable. So that's what you're talking about. There is just no way a former head of state can condone looting, can condone the destruction of property. That was the furthest thing in his mind. In fact, it was not anywhere in his mind. All he just was trying to find words to show his deepest appreciation. And he was saying, because he was a selfish man, he was saying, this love that you demonstrated to me, please demonstrate to others as well. That's what I was saying.
All right, Mr. Manyi, thank you so much for your time. It was really important, though, to clarify that, because, listening to that, I'm certain now you would even agree, as much as we're Africans, that also could raise some eyebrows. But thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Do appreciate it. I know that you are on the road. Thank you. Thank you for that.